Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News for this Thursday, June 6th, 2024, as we look at a number of stories breaking now in the news that are very, very important with respect to last days Bible prophecy, what the Bible says is going to happen at the time of the end before the coming of Jesus Christ, not the least of which Hamas has rejected Israel's proposal for a hostage release simply because they wanted Biden's proposal, which was their proposal, which Biden promoted as Israel's proposal. As we talked about yesterday and before, it was never the proposal of Israel. Basically, as you recall, according to what Biden said, Israel has proposed to stop fighting for 6 weeks, leave Gaza, in other words, leave all the gains, and then hope to get a hostage release of a certain amount of hostages. And then after that 6 week period, negotiate for a permanent ceasefire. Israel never had that plan in mind, never have proposed that. The U.S. proposed it, claimed it was Israel's plan. Joe Biden lied about it. And now we see Hamas saying, no, we can't accept this sort of thing. We'll be talking about this because it differs from the plan that we put forward, that is Hamas. We also see the war in Lebanon is getting closer and closer to becoming a reality, where Israel on the northern front will have a huge war to fight with Hezbollah, another client state, another surrogate of Iran. But first, the main headline today, it was 80 years ago today, June 6th, 1944, the name given to the invasion of the European continent called D-Day, where the invasion of the beaches of Normandy took place in northern France by troops of the United States, Britain, and Canada, and other countries. During the Second World War, France was occupied at the time by the armies of Nazi Germany, and the amphibious assault, codenamed Operation Overlord, landed some 156,000 Allied soldiers on the beaches of Normandy by the end of the day. Despite their success, some 4,000 Allied troops were killed by German soldiers on D-Day defending the beaches. At that time, D-Day was the largest invasion, naval, air, and land operation in history, and within a few days there were 326,000 troops, more than 50,000 vehicles, and some 100,000 tons of equipment that had landed. By August 1944, France had been liberated, and in the spring of 45, of course, the Allies had defeated the Germans, and historians often refer to D-Day as the beginning of the end of the Second World War. We need to take a minute and reflect to how wonderful that was, that the United States as a country worked together during the Second World War. The newscaster Tom Brokaw wrote a book called The Greatest Generation, talking about that generation, and he was absolutely correct. The U.S., this is really America, what it was, working together, the women working in the factories, helping to produce items for the war effort. The men were overseas fighting, and it was a tremendous effort by the United States, and we gave a lot of lives on D-Day. Some 2,500 Americans were killed on that day in the Normandy invasion, and many lives were, lost during the fight for the freedom against the Nazis, and then, of course, Japan. And so, as we have the 80th anniversary today, there were some solemn ceremonies done in Normandy earlier today, and it's something that shows just how far America has fallen with what our leadership is today, or lack of leadership compared to during the Second World War. It's an emotional issue for me. My late father was on the second wave D-Day. That day he hit the beach of Omaha on the second wave. He told me stories of what happened there, and we would watch these war movies together and documentaries, and explain where he was during that time. He had a really interesting conversation. One thing I'll share, where he got to meet General Eisenhower, was of course the head of the Allied command. My dad was a military commander in Leipzig, Germany during the time, and there was an area he was in charge of, and they were working on the road, and Eisenhower shows up, and my dad said, General, can you wait a few minutes? We've got this road we're clearing up ahead so you can pass. And Eisenhower said, no problem. Then my dad said, by the way, do you know so-and-so? And Eisenhower perked up. Oh, yes. What happened was my dad had worked one summer in Kansas at a farm that was right next door to Eisenhower's farm. So he said he had an interesting conversation for about 5 minutes with the future president. So anyway, it's when I think about the lives that are lost, about the sacrifices that were made, and I see what things have come to today, it is heartbreaking. It is sad. So like I said, I get really emotional about this. And so today, lest we forget, 80 years ago, this day happened. According to the movie, I watched it last night, Der Längste Tag, The Longest Day, which is a great reenactment of what happened June 6, 1944. Anyway, let us not ever forget this, and God bless those people. There's still some of the survivors still alive, and they're getting fewer and fewer, but they were indeed the greatest generation. All right, let's look to the other headlines. Number two, Hamas has rejected the hostage deal. This is not a big surprise. Hamas will announce that it rejects the Israeli offer for ceasefire prisoner swap deal. Saudi newspaper reports this. Hamas has rejected the Israeli proposal for the prisoner swap and a temporary ceasefire. It's reported Thursday morning in Saudi Arabia. Now, sources in the Hamas terror group have claimed that the decision was made due to an understanding that the Israeli proposal is inherently different from the one presented by U.S. President Joe Biden. You think so? It's totally different because Biden lied and presented a ceasefire proposal, calling it an Israeli proposal that had nothing in the sort to do with Israel's proposal. A memorandum sent to the various terror groups on Wednesday and shown to this newspaper claimed that the agreement does not promise a permanent ceasefire. The occupation forces will remain in Gaza when they receive their hostages, and they will renew the destruction against our nation. Well, that's what's the plan all along. They're responding to, remember, Hamas is the one that attacked Israel, that killed these 1,400 people that day on October 7th. Israel's responding, and of course, they're the ones that are trying to root out this terrorist group, and they're going to keep on fighting till it's done. That's always been their goal. Like we mentioned yesterday, Caroline Glick talking about the three goals: getting rid of Hamas, making sure Hamas's army cannot ever rise again, and then making sure Gaza will never in the future have some type of military group that can do anything near what happened on October 7th. So basically, this is further proof that Biden's proposed Israeli deal was not Israel's deal at all. Israel did not promise to stop to do a ceasefire when negotiations go on, and they certainly had no plan to leave Gaza for 6 weeks, as Biden characterized it. Simply put, Biden lied about it, and it's going to be interesting to see how they spin that, the U.S., because they continue to lie about it. When Israel pointed out, to them, this was not our plan, they said, "Oh, yes, it was." Well, we will see. Now, headline number three, Gallant, who was the defense minister, he said talks will take place under fire. And Haniyeh said, he's the leader of Hamas, no hostages without an end to the war. You see, that's why there's no agreement that can be made, none whatsoever. After seeing CIA Director, Qatar PM, and Egypt Intel Chief met Hamas's delegation in Doha, the press terror chiefs basically accepted the Israeli offer with the expectation to give a conditional okay. No, what they accepted was the Biden offer, not the Israeli offer. The Israeli offer differed from that. And Gallant, the defense minister, said negotiations will only be conducted under fire. We will not negotiate, but we won't leave and then negotiate. There will be negotiating when fighting is ongoing. And that's the point he made, that Israel has said this from the very beginning. But Hamas's leader said he would deal seriously and positively with the ceasefire agreement, which based on a total halt of the war and the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip. And that's not Israelis' plan. They never planned to do that. Again, that's Joe Biden's plan. Netanyahu has repeatedly insisted he will not accept any hostage deal that prevents Israel from completing its war aims of eliminating Hamas. So what will the U.S. try to do next? Will they try to force Israel to accept Biden's plan? Don't be surprised if something like this happens. You must accept your plan that Biden outlined. Again, the plan that Biden spent 4 minutes explaining, the three-point plan. That was Israel's plan. Then he spent the next 8 minutes, basically trying to convince Israel to accept their own plan that he just revealed. All right, number four headline. Despite Spain, Ireland, and Norway, this is interesting, most of Europe supports Israel at a record level. Igniting diplomatic tensions as the IDF advances continues to operate around Rafah. As they continue fighting in Rafah, they're making some really great advances and great, gains. The symbolic recognition of a Palestinian state might just make the conflict in Gaza worse than it already is, because you have these three countries, Spain, Norway, and Ireland, have recently announced their decision to recognize a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. The move was obviously a political statement. It's impractical right now, and it won't happen. Israel's critics see it as a huge victory, but Israel's supporters say no, it's another regrettable diplomatic decision as the IDF continues to go into Rafah, continue to expand, getting rid of Hamas. The spokesperson for the European Leadership Network in Israel, a non-government organization which fosters Israeli-European ties, talked to a group called the Media Line, said that these three countries' decisions need to be contextualized in the larger perspective of Europe's relations with Israel. Israel's relationship with Europe has been quite positive, especially since October 7th, resulting in high-level support of most countries that continue this day. And then this interesting point this person makes, his name is Daniel Shadmai. He said, in fact, while the U.S. has been debating on withholding weapons meant for Israel, most European countries, led by Germany, continue to purchase Israeli defense technology to protect their own citizens and programs that cost billions of dollars. All right, so Israel's not totally isolated yet, but we know it is coming. And we saw the seeds of that in these three countries in Europe who've already said we're going to accept a Palestinian state. And shame on them, Spain, Norway, and Ireland. Now, there's a more immediate problem Israel has, and that's our next headline. Headline 5. Hezbollah's precision hits bring big war near, and it will indeed be a big war. The Lebanese-based terror organization has made devastating precision hits in recent days, and this is the real worry here, seriously damaging two military installations and damaging an Iron Dome anti-missile defense system. And as we mentioned yesterday, the UK warns that a wider war is imminent in June. The most serious attack came on Tuesday, and this was in northern Israel. A rocket attack slammed what was initially described as a soccer field in the Druze town. Druze is a group of Muslim group that lives in Israel. They're very patriotic, support very much the Israeli government. There's Druze soldiers that are fighting along with Israel against Hamas. Anyways, a town called Herfish, which has been reported to the IDF barracks. Now, here's what happened. They did this precise attack. They injured about 10 people. There was one death there. But then they targeted the IDF first responders to the attack, precise attack. In other words, what terrorists usually do, they do a bomb or do a missile attack or whatever, and the people come, the first responders come to help out, and that's what happened with Israel, came to help these Druze people that were injured, and they're lying there on the soccer field. And while that took place, it was about 8 minutes later, there's a second precision bomb that hit the same place. In other words, what is worrisome for Israel is the precision, the preciseness of these weapons that were hit at this Druze town. Because in the past, basically, what Hezbollah has are these Katyusha rockets, which they shoot them up and only God knows where they're going to end. But this precision fighting was really problematic here. So the Israeli Air Force responded with a bunch of raids into Lebanon. Firefighters, again, have put the blaze in northern Israel under control. But according to Lebanese sources, as we mentioned, the British government has warned Beirut to expect an Israeli attack in Lebanon in June. So here's the point. Their goal today is not to just launch a bunch of rockets. As the article says, rockets are a statistical weapon like artillery, meaning you launch a bunch of them and you hope that some of them hit the target. Hezbollah's arsenal of rockets may be 150,000 projectiles, and a lot of them, like we said, are in storage. But a lot of these weapons are simply older, dumb rockets. These type of rockets are not precise at all. These type of weapon systems don't win wars. They're only good for harassing or civilians, and that's what they've done in the past. But now we see some precision weapons being fired in northern Israel, and this has caused the worry. And this is why there's an uptick of a war that will take place. Now, there's an interesting article from the Jerusalem Post, invading the north and rockets to Tel Aviv, what the war with Hezbollah would look like. In other words, this war that's coming, what's it going to look like? And it's really interesting what's going on. It's going to be an all-out war. It's going to be a worse fire than happened in 2006, which happened in the northern part of the country, got shelled. And as the author of the article says, Hezbollah's main firepower is missile and rockets. And here's what's really interesting. Their firepower can target the entire state of Israel. They have weapons that can reach anywhere in Israel, and that's the worry right there. The entire northern area up to Haifa can be hit. In fact, it says this, and this is what's really worrisome. In the first week or two of the war, it will be almost impossible to lead a normal life in Israel. That's the entire country. According to their estimates, they have 150,000 mortars. Most of those are just nuisance weapons. 65,000 rockets with a range up to 80 kilometers, 5,000 rockets and missiles with a range of 80 to 200 kilometers, and 5,000 missiles with a range of 200 kilometers or more. 2,500 unmanned aerial vehicles, the UAVs, and hundreds of advanced missiles, such as anti-aircraft missiles or cruise missiles. Estimates indicate that should war break out, Hezbollah would send several thousand drones and missiles to Israel every single day. So not only the fighting that goes on there, which is limited to the soldiers, obviously, there, the army in Gaza, this is the entire country getting bombarded. And this is probably coming in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned here. So Israel's got that to consider. Now, finally, headline number 7. Here we go again. The World Health Organization confirms that a bird flu death in Mexico, as trust the science experts now want to test America's 40 million cows because of one death in Mexico from the bird flu. About a week ago, the news broke that the Biden administration was nearing a deal to bankroll Moderna's vaccine against the bird flu. Now, we mentioned that they're already producing a vaccine like they did with the Chinese Communist Party coronavirus. 19 COVID-19. So now they're producing want to bankroll another vaccine against the bird flu. Remember Deborah Birx? She was the physician with Anthony Fauci that was always standing up with President Trump as a response coordinator. Well, she said earlier today that weekly testing of the nation's cattle herd population should be done, every single one of them, all 40 million cows. We should be testing every cow weekly. So what could possibly go wrong? Well, we'll see. We've got a few months out till the election. Will we have the same thing we had in 2020 with the shutdowns, the lockdowns? Now, the bird flu has not passed over in any major way to human beings from animals. It may, and this may be the next pandemic. We don't know. And it could be something that is, just, punctuated by the World Health Organization and the CDC and others by saying, look, we've got to take care. We've got to get everybody injected. We've got to get people vaccinated now beforehand because this could be a horrible issue. We don't know. But again, let's keep that in mind. We've got to keep that in the back of our minds. It will be another repeat of 2020. All right, let's sum up. On this D-Day, we see how far America has fallen. Namely from presenting a fake plan that Israel never agreed to, let it saturate to the world for 24 hours, as we said, before Israel had a chance to respond, because Biden gave it about an hour before Israel shut down totally with the Shabbat, and they shut down totally. There's no news broadcast, nothing from the government for 24 hours. He did that purposely, so it would infiltrate the whole world. Everybody loved this is a great plan. Yeah, let's do it. Yes, Israel's plan is fabulous. Hamas should accept it, and we will end the war. But it was never Israel's plan. It was Joe Biden's plan that he lied about, that Hamas really had that plan. And so Hamas, as predicted, wanted Biden's plan, not Israel's plan. They said that today. So what's going to happen next? We will see. It's anybody's guess. And also, Israel has to worry about an impending war with another surrogate of Iran in Lebanon, Hezbollah. Therefore, as the Bible predicts, as we talk about here, there is no peace on the horizon for the state of Israel. In our book, 25 Signs, we're near the end. Sign 7 says there will be a continual search for peace in Israel in the last days. Once they become a modern state, get back into the land, they will have no peace with their neighbors. This is from our book, 25 Signs, we're near the end, which is a free download from our website, Educating Our World. Please take advantage of it. Everything is free and explains the signs that the Bible gives of what will take place at the time of the end. And like we've said before, amazingly, as we document, of the 25 signs, there are 70 specific things that are predicted that have already been fulfilled, and 30 more that are in the process of being fulfilled, showing that God is in control of all things. All right, I'm Don Stewart. Again, if you get a chance, take some time to think about and thank God for the greatest generation. That the reason we're here, many of us, is because of the sacrifices they made 80 years ago today on the beaches of Normandy in northern France. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly bless.